And I'm here again today with the very talented Miss Chrys Columbine. And we're going to continue our chat from the last time and see what's been going on during the lockdown time since. How are you? Are you okay?
Hey John, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yes, very well. So
Good.
I want to just jump straight into it. I've seen a couple of the things that you've been involved with
Sure.
during the whole lockdown period. You still managed to be keeping yourself reasonably busy. So we'll go over that first, and then we'll just see where it goes. But firstly, you've done a couple of performances online. I've seen one in particular that involved fire, which was pretty cool. So tell us a little bit about this, how this came about.
Okay, well, it was for a obviously club that's been shut down, which in my opinion is was shut down during lockdown, which in my opinion is the best cabaret show in town. It's called the Phoenix Artists Club, Phoenix Arts Club. And they were asking all of the artists that have ever performed at the club, including West End stars that come and perform at the After Hours Cabaret, to do little online performance videos in their home or in their garden, which is what I did. And anything they wanted, whether it involved speech, whether it didn't involve speech, whether it involved skills that they can't necessarily perform at the club. So the Phoenix Artists Club is this amazing little cabaret theatre downstairs from the Phoenix Theatre, the West End theatre on Charing Cross Road. And due to the venue being underground, obviously you can't do fire there. So I just thought, you know what, I can do anything I want. They don't get to have any performers doing their fire, so why don't I give them some fire? So I did this montage of playing the piano, going into feather fans, and then going into the fire, which was a lot of fun. Especially around about that time when obviously in lockdown no one knows what's happening, everybody's twiddling their thumbs. Just got to go out in my father's lovely garden and create this little montage. So yeah, that was very fun.
That's absolutely awesome, and I saw that clip online, and it really did look the business. So the other
Thank
thing
you.
is, you're obviously a very smart person because you listen to what I say and take it on board, and the world would just be a better place if everybody did. But
Exactly.
we had a
Yeah.
conversation last
You're
time.
trying, John. You're trying.
I
Yeah.
I am.
Trying to educate the masses, and you're doing a great job so far.
Thank you. But we had a conversation last time where I was asking about the different influences that you incorporated into your burlesque routines. And obviously, a
Sure.
large part of our conversation last time was also the fact that you are a trained martial artist. And we did discuss the possibility of you doing a martial arts themed sort of burlesque routine. Now, we were talking about a much bigger production with maybe a Kill Bill theme or something. But
Sure.
I've recently done a little bit incorporating a fan, which can traditionally be used as a weapon in the sort of the traditional Oriental martial arts. And this is also coincided with an interview for a magazine, I believe. Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, well, I worked with this amazing photographer called Tina Kay. She's photographed anyone in the rock world. I mean, she's photographed anyone from David Bowie to Gene Simmons of Kiss to Lemmy from Motorhead to Axl Rose, you name it. And she's an amazing woman. We worked together because she shot a live concert of some of my Music Academy kids 2 years ago. And she asked me to be involved in this project where she was taking pictures of artists, mainly musical artists, but other performance artists as well, on either their doorstep or a part of their home that is slightly on the outside, like a garden or a balcony. It's for Viva La Rock magazine. And we started taking some photos. Originally, we had the idea of it being quite burlesque, and then I just thought, Tina, I don't just do this, I do this as well. And she was like, that's great. Well, we'll have you in one of your little costumes, being a little bit more guitar. So I started doing some martial arts kicks, and then I improvised a little kata, I guess, if you can call it that, and ended up creating a video with fans and kata.
I really look forward to that being released, and I look forward to seeing that. and just a general life lesson to the world. Be smart, be like Chrys, listen to John. He has good ideas.
There you go.
50-50. I mean,
I'm a walking advert for your good advice, right?
Walking out with my good advice. That's how my students, yeah. So like, if it comes to anything sort of martial art related or physical related, it's like you can take me as read. Other than that, as I've said on some of the blogs, my life's probably best just used like a fable. Like, think what would John do in this situation? Then don't do that, and then you'll be fine. But when it comes to anything martial art related, trust me, do as Chrys does. Listen to me. I know my kit. You can just take that and go with that. Anyway, enough of the ego. So you've done your bits for the Phoenix Club, which were cool. You've done this bit, this interview, and the associated video for Viva La Rock, which we really look forward to seeing, which has a little bit of a martial arts influence there with the fan work and things. You've also been keeping really busy, still doing some online fitness classes, haven't you? Because I've seen a few of those. I've actually worked out with a few of those, Chrys, and
amazing,
really lovely techniques. And it's cool because whenever you work, if I go and train at a different class with a different instructor, which I do as much as humanly possible, you're forever picking up variations on a theme. Everyone has their own interpretation of, a given exercise or drill or technique, and you're forever picking up interesting little points, and it helps keep, yourself fresh. It's your own personal development. You need to stay hungry and stay interested and keep tweaking things and looking at the same stuff, the same material from different angles. So I've just got to say, I've nicked a few of your exercises from my lot, so they will suffer by your hand.
Please do. I'm absolutely, I'm thrilled if I can contribute to the amazing realms of good advice and techniques that John has for the world.
Well, we just tip for tat there, Chrys. It's like, I've nicked some of your exercise stuff. You took the advice of I was incorporating the martial arts and,
Well, I've taken your advice and continue to take them on board in my own training, the back kicks. Remember when we were training up in your gym, which is awesome. And I've been training with my sensei as well during lockdown because, like you said, obviously, as fighting and fitness instructors, we adore our own exercises and our own way of training people and watching them develop their techniques. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing them. But I don't know about you. If I was just left to my own devices all the time, I'd just be as bored as hell of my own exercises, So I'm with you there. I think it's vital to be training with other instructors, just opening your eyes up and your physiology up to different training techniques. So I'm 100% with you there.
100%. I mean, I've had this conversation with a few different people, and basically, there are a lot of like quality practitioners out there in any discipline, whether you're talking martial arts or music or acting, and everyone will have that same initial universal truth that they're trying to convey, so to speak, that technique, that blueprint, whether we're talking about how to deliver a line in a certain situation, how to play a certain piece of music, or how to throw a right cross or a roundhouse kick. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to have their own little personal touches. You can't help but do this. I mean, the system is the sort of the raw information, and then it's always sort of filtered through the individual. And I care about, an individual's interpretation of that system, that universal truth, if you will, more than the system itself. That's the important bit. And yeah, I mean, that's something that I love just about learning anything, and the creative process in general is finding a technique, whether it be something I've been doing on the guitar or whether it be something, that I've been throwing in the ring for 30 odd years. I have my way that I love and that I'm very attached to, and that stays. But when someone can sort of take a flashlight and shine it on that same, that same technique, that same system, and they emphasize different points, and all of a sudden it opens up completely different possibilities in your mind, and you have these like wow moments.
Everybody is going to prefer a technique or techniques to some other techniques. It all depends on what their creative journey is, what their creative process, what their training goals are, what their strength goals are. And I think that sometimes it's very it can be really beneficial for you, even though you've got a set routine that works for you or a set way of doing things. It can be really beneficial to try and adopt someone else's and just take bits from other people's worlds. I just think that what's the point? I mean, we're here for quite a short time, so we might as well try and expose ourselves and educate ourselves to other people's way of doing things sometimes.
And I find that is a major factor in sort of in keeping me personally motivated and creative, because we do all go into our little routines. We can. I had this conversation with Lee Charles, because Lee's obviously been doing a lot of online classes, and we've got an interview that's out there already. Check it out; it's awesome. Lee, Gangs of London,
yeah, we'll do.
Job.
We'll do.
But also very good martial artist and martial arts instructor, which is where we first met. And he was saying that the lockdown and doing the classes online has actually sort of forced him more, by taking that sort of that physical routine out of the picture, and everything's done all, online. In a way, it's much more personal,
Mm-hmm.
and it sort of woke him up again, and it sort of reignited that sort of connection with the students and things he found. And I can totally and utterly relate to that, because life gets really, really on top very quickly. And when you do something that you are very proficient in, when I say phone it in, I don't mean that there is no passion or no feeling or no, focus behind it. There is. But what happens is, when you are put under pressure in life, or let's take martial art in a fight,
Mm-hmm.
as Mike Tyson once said, everyone's got a plan till you get punched in the face. So this is where your systems, your training, your drilling, and your personal interpretation of that system, this is where it really gets pressure tested.
And the way you fight against what is in front of you when you're confronted by it, like this whole situation, this global pandemic we've been in, how do we fight that on an individual, day-to-day basis? I mean, I think everybody's biggest fight of all, even though they might not know it, yes, okay, it's been devastating. People have lost loved ones, people have lost jobs, families have probably been torn apart, families have come together. But for me, and I think I can speak for so many other people, the biggest fight has been managing to feel okay and sane on a day-to-day basis. That's been our biggest battle. And I think when you get into the habit of following some kind of routine that focuses on your physical strength and well-being, then everything up here starts to fall into place, or at least has a better chance of doing so. When you're physically strong as you can be, then mentally you feel ready to take on anything that the world throws at you.
Absolutely. More. I mean, there are many, many facets to this conversation. I'll try and get them sort of ordered in my head. So yeah, taking care of yourself physically is immense, because the mind and the body are completely and utterly interconnected, and two halves of the same coin. You cannot neglect one side of it.
Sure.
In terms of what I was saying about going back to what when you're under pressure, what you have drilled the most, what you've interned the most is what comes out. Now, when you are, like you say, take a broader view, look at the pandemic, I mean, that's had an enormous amount of the country effectively in survival mode, in that, how do I get through the next day? How am I going to pay the bills? Blah, 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 blah. So firstly, when you are physically in shape and pushing yourself, and you're taking care of the things that you can take care of, you take that small amount of control that you do have over a situation, you take it back. You start with the small disciplines, the ones that are easy to accomplish. And when I say easy, I don't mean physically easy. I mean easy that you can do them.
That you can actually physically do, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just end up having the mental clarity to make more informed and wise decisions as well.
100%. And also in terms of the creativity, one of the major blocks to creativity, and believe me, I know about this because I do feel like I have been just sort of existing for the last handful of years. It's not a pity party. It's been there's just facts. There's been a phenomenal stuff in my external world beyond my control, including deaths and bereavements of loved ones, including, constant entanglement with the courts and the legal systems, all of which is now done and dusted. And now that's started to shift. I found it very much easier to actually get back to myself, because it sounds like such a poxy cliche, and I cringe a bit saying it, but it's true. You lose yourself because you
Yeah,
are just concerned with your physical survival. You're in that fight or
because
flight.
you have so many things from the outside being thrown at you and coming into your world and encroaching your day-to-day and sometimes nightly space when you can't even sleep because you're so worried about everything, you know, and so many things that are the decisions of other people and the consequences of other people's actions and reactions that you then have to manage because
Yeah.
you've got no choice.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that. That is stuff beyond our control that we are having to respond to for survival. When you're focused on survival, you can't really be creative, can you?
No, exactly. That's what I was saying. Sometimes there have been moments during this lockdown where I've just not. I've always managed to do my training. I've managed to do my online fitness classes, and that's been great. I've managed to stay healthy, sleep well, all that. But there's been times, there's been like weeks where I just haven't felt like doing anything creative. I haven't felt like sitting at the piano. And you know what, but that's okay as well. You know, we need time sometimes to actually mentally rest and goes, okay, I'm not going to force myself to get on, pick up my instrument or pick up a pair of fans or fire or whatever it is you do, or pick up your juggling balls if that's what you do as well. It's okay to have that time away from your usual performance art, and I did. And actually, it's been quite beneficial because as of 2 weeks ago, that's when I started creating again, putting together these little improv show ideas. And I think sometimes your mind needs a break from that as well, because as much as we love it, it can still feel a bit like work as well. Because I think that's been another pressure of the lockdown, is to be like interested in what everybody's doing and what has everybody else got to show, what new languages have they've been learning, what new skills have they been learning. There's always almost this constant pressure on social media to make lockdown into some kind of homeschooling venture for yourself, not just your kids, you know.
And you know, that is an absolutely worthy way of spending the time. I mean, I've got this very ground. However, you're dead right. There are some days where, you know, it's massive. Someone like you, someone like me, I mean, like that creative process, whether we're talking about burlesque, martial art, screen fight choreography, music, which is something we both do, although you're an actual musician, I'm a functional alcoholic with guitar, but it's the same vibe. I enjoy it.
Right, but the heart of yourself, John, you know. Don't forget, the world is looking to you for good advice. So you being that hard on yourself and putting yourself down is not doing a great job in influencing the world, is it?
Well, nah, I mean, at the end of the day,
I'm sure you're a very good musician, and I'm sure, like with all good musicians, the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. But again, that's I'm not going to get into music academy teachery mode with you. So I'll save that for another interview. In fact, we can even do a live lesson. How about that?
that's aberration. I'm sure I can manage 3 chords.
One fingering. Yeah.
Oh, mate. No, just saying, it is really important. But you know what else is important? And this is the other thing: to never stop appreciating. You know, because sometimes all you want to do is sit down, and it fills you back up. Watch a great film, listen to some music. God forbid, when we can actually get back to it, go to a gig. I'm missing gigs.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
like,
Missing festivals as well.
yeah. Oh God, yeah. But I mean, like, that's the sort of stuff that charges you up and inspires you again. And it's like, you're not always going to be best, you know, if everything's perfect in your life, you're still not always going to be 24/7 in that creative space. And if you will, you kind of miss the point, because sit down and actually appreciate it. Take the time to see what's out there, not just your own stuff, but, you know, other people's stuff. And it gives you that sort of, gives you a bit of objectivity on everything again when you do that. And I think that's massive for keeping you charged up and recharging the batteries. And yeah, definitely. And the other thing I would say that I think is a major block with creativity, and it's something that happens, A, as we put under constantly more and more stress, you know, as we've both sadly experienced recently, but B, just as we get older, you, again, it sounds very cheesy, but you stop believing, or you can, and you fall into your patterns. Now, maybe your patterns are decent, maybe your patterns are solid and they work for you and they get you by, but they become like just, what can I say? It's just a default go-to program that we're all running. I mean, we're all running programs. Are we doing it consciously or just sort of plodding through the motions? And I think as we get older, we stop
Well, I
entertaining the chance.
one of the problems with that is that up until recently, I think up until the last few years, there's been such a press, especially in the creative industry, showbiz industry, sports industry. I mean, with sports you can understand because physiologically there is, you know, definite biological deadlines, but age is such a big factor, isn't it? It's like you've got to have reached this by the time you're this age, and you've got to have then gotten married and had your kids by the time you're this age, and by the time you're this age, forget about dreaming, mate, because it's all over now. You just got to basically be content and live life and get into retirement mode. And that's not true at all. I don't believe that. I don't think you're ever too old to dream. And if you've got your goals that you haven't managed to do up until now, I don't think there's anything wrong in aiming to continue doing them.
Absolutely. You know, Chris, I'm so glad you jumped in. That was perfect. That was exactly what I was driving at. We learn to place limitations on ourselves. Even people like you and me that have bust through so many glass ceilings in our lives, we kind of can, especially under pressure. Like I said, you go back to what you know. It's like, okay, I'm established. This is good. I'm happy. I'm content even. This is where I am. And you kind of just sort of accept it and you stop.
I don't know the meaning of the word content, mate. I don't know if I ever will. Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very grateful for all the things I have in my life. I'm very grateful for what I've achieved, grateful for the factors and the people that have helped me get to where I am, but I'm not necessarily content. Definitely not complacent. And I think that sometimes when it's great to actually feel settled and be like, right, I want to do something different in my life, or I want to settle down. But I think if you get too complacent, that also kills your drive, your motivation and your creativity.
Yeah, 110%. I mean, and more than that, I mean, I've found, I mean, when I really struggle, when I really hit rock bottom, I mean, no secret that I've had my issues with mental health, but I mean, when it's not even a question of, you know, when you start to lack that belief in yourself, you stop feeling like you are part of the world. Trust me, the detachment comes and the disassociation comes, and then you can't really even enjoy stuff. You know, I don't have those evenings where I can just put the telly on and watch my favorite TV program or listen to a music, because you know, by sort of imposing these limitations, which then you start to, you know, believe in and work to subconsciously, you then basically you stop looking forward, and you reach, like say, you start listening to what society says, which is a load of crap. I've had people telling me I was done when I was 25. You know what I mean? I mean, screw that.
Exactly. And sometimes I think you get a bit, almost like you said, if you can't sit of a night and watch your favorite TV show, sometimes you try and do that and you can't without feeling guilty that you're relaxing, without feeling guilty and thinking, oh my God, I should be doing this instead, or I shouldn't be watching. Like my classic one is sometimes I'll be watching a TV show at 10:30 and I'm just like, well, fuck this, I should be asleep now. I should be asleep so that I get up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and go for a run in the morning at 6 a.m. And it's like, and that again, that's and a lot of us do this, that's me beating myself up for relaxing, which is also fine. And it's okay to sometimes do nothing and do something as mind-numbing as watching a TV show. And to be honest, not all TV shows are mind-numbing. You know, if you followed season 1 and 2 of The Punisher, which I'm sure you have, that's anything but mind-numbing. In fact, I think that gives you a lot of good ideas on how to live your life.
Gives me a lot of ideas on how to inflict violent death on people as well, Chris. I love that show.
There you go. I mean, we touched briefly on that subject in the last interview, didn't we? So, yeah, I'm sure that there's plenty of us that have taken a lot from that amazing series.
There is. Oh, Chris, that's exactly it. I mean, and I can completely relate to that experience of not being able to switch off. But to me, this is all part and parcel of that same issue of being in survival mode. And again, I think that those self-limiting thoughts that come in that, oh my God, I'm this old and I've only got so far and I've not done this and I might as well forget about that, blah, blah, blah. And that sort of disheartening sort of negative self-talk that can creep in. And then that just, again, it makes you feel, it makes you feel a little bit hopeless and a little bit desperate, which then in turn kicks in your survival kind of mechanism, which then in turn takes you further away from being able to relax and enjoy things, or God forbid, you know, actually do anything yourself, be creative. I mean, my answer to this, firstly, always sort of, you know, I'm always quite introspective, and I always keep an eye on my own thoughts, and I'm good at it. But if I really am struggling, I won't think twice, and there's no stigma to me about going in and seeing a therapist for a few sessions, because effectively what I've got is an objective third-party perspective, you know, on me. Now, no matter how much of a master of your art you are, whatever it might be, no matter how great you are at dealing with life, unless you are a Jedi, you cannot physically step outside yourself and observe yourself. If I'm training for a fight, I've been training martial art for 34 years. I'm not necessarily asking for someone to show me anything different. I'm asking them to feed back information from the outside and, you know, give me that external push and that objectivity.
I think also, John, we've talked about this before as well, and I certainly have talked even to my sensei about it. You know, my sensei's, you know, in his 60s. He's a 6th Dan black belt, and even he, sometimes he's an absolute master of Shotokan and Goju-Ryu karate, and he's amazing. I've known him since I was a kid, but even he needs an instructor sometimes. I think when you, especially when you have a livelihood and you live and breathe for helping other people achieve their creative and strength goals and their ambitions, more than anything, you too need a go-to person for advice, for mentorship, even to tell you everything's going to be all right. When you're often in the position where you're actually being the mentor and you're giving a lot of your time and physical energy into molding someone to be the best version of themselves, of course you're going to need the help to do the same.
It's a completely different mindset. I understand that immensely. I mean, I absolutely adore teaching. I love it. It's my profession. It's my living, all right? And I'm not being arrogant. I'm talented at it. I know I am. I've produced some really great students. I've helped people through personal stuff, through, you know, physical stuff, you name it. I've helped people achieve the goals. Boom, there you go.
And you've got me listening to you, you know?
Well,
there you go.
Seriously, you're going far now. You're on the right lines. But seriously, you're an instructor as well. And a very good one, Chris. And I'm not blowing smoke. I think your presentation's excellent.
Thank you.
But you're in a teaching mindset, so you are giving out. It's all about giving out. You also absolutely need to go and be the student again the whole time.
Absolutely.
Or you burn out hard.
And all your life as well. You need to keep being a student all your life. That's what keeps, when we're all old and can't do half the moves we've been able to do, actually learning new things is what's going to sharpen us and continue to keep us okay up here.
I've actually come up with a few, I've kind of ticked off to the greater extent. And then again, this can be a bit of a trap. I've ticked off to the greater extent a lot of my early goals. In that, some of them I've achieved 100%, and some of them I've achieved to a degree, but your goals change as you get older. And the fact that I achieved it to a degree was enough to satisfy myself, because at the end of the day, we don't have anything in this, you know, life, in this existence, other than our own personal perception of it. And at the end of the day, okay, I'll give you an example. I'd set myself a goal to be a world kickboxing champion. Now, as a 5-time amateur British champion, that materialized 100%. I set my mind on it, I trained for it, I achieved it. I went to the Amateur World Championships in 2002 and competed in full contact kickboxing. I got a bronze medal. And I'm not being bitch, I got robbed. Now, the fight's on YouTube, so, you know, go and have a look at it. But I mean, everyone watching just knew I got robbed. Now, I'm not saying I'd have won the world title, even if I'd won that fight. It was a Swiss guy that won in the end, and he was magnificent. But I would have liked to have had the opportunity to fight for it And as far as I'm concerned, that bronze should be at least a silver and could possibly have been a gold. However,
Sure.
here's the important thing. That was the first task that I set myself after I had my near fatal car accident, which the title of this show alludes to. And at the time, I was about 3 stone overweight. I had been smashing alcohol and coke and weed and God knows what else, right? And I was basically suicidal until that accident came along. And then it really sort of straightened me out and gave me some perspective. And that was like the massive sort of turning point that I needed. And I talk more about that on all the tapes. So then
I think that when you have that kind of near death experience, it really makes you appreciate life all the more, doesn't it?
Yeah. It refocuses.
And it also, like you said, it refocuses your whole perspective and what really is important in life. And you just learn to have a bit more respect for life and for yourself as well.
And for the moment. You stay in the moment a lot more. And what it did for me was I've always struggled with many things psychologically, which we will cover one at a time. But one thing I've always struggled with is boundaries in terms of where do I stop? Where does the world begin? And I am a bit of a sod for accepting, I used to be. Not so much anymore. I mean, I'm very well practiced now at A, staying in the moment, and B, drawing those lines. And I've gone forward leaps and bounds in my career and my life for having
being aware and being present. Yeah.
But beforehand, I just absorb it all like a sponge and really give people way too much credence, And then when you realise that you really do not take it with you and that all you've got is the inside of your own mind. And if you're okay with that, then you're okay. And you're in control of that. So if you're not okay with it, you can change it. Yeah. And that sort of like smacked me in the face. And I was like, oh, wow, why have I wasted my time on this crap when, it's not me? And it's okay to understand that intellectually. I'm sure anyone that just heard what I said can go, oh, yeah. And intellectually, you'll understand that straight away. But there's a big difference between having an intellectual understanding of it and having that sort of peak experience as you interpret it, the last couple of moments before what's going to be your death, and it really hits home and then you feel it. And then I'm like, and now I get it, and I never forgot that. And I built up from there. And I'd love to tell you it was a straight line, A to B after that. It really wasn't. Because once you've had those experiences, once you've had those aha moments, the inspiration, then comes the perspiration because you still got to drill it. And
you're still plagued with a lot of your old self-destructive methods, aren't you? So it's not just an even, lovely ride uphill, isn't it?
Never.
You're not being pulled by a pulley, like at a really nice, even level. It's very bumpy.
It would be awesome if you were on that pulley one day, but no, you then got to engage. You've then got to engage, Then it's a question of, like I say, going back to that introspection, finding out what programs you are running, identifying them and changing them if they can be changed. Some of them are so deeply ingrained, if it's stuff that we've learned in the first few years of our life, that you will never, probably never change them. But you can learn to identify them and then not respond from them.
You can learn to manage them, can't you?
You're always going to react that way. I had a conversation with another chap who is a personal and professional development expert called Nigel Booth, and some interviews are coming out soon. And he made a really sort of important differentiation for me. Because I've always said, I think I've said it on the opening intro blog to this series, I said, we're never in control of our environment, but we're always in control of our reaction to it. Not quite correct. We're not in control of our reaction to it. Our reaction is an inbuilt reaction,
Yeah.
And if your programming is crap, then your reaction will probably always be crap. But you are always in control of your response to it. It means stepping back again. So you're dealing with the outside. Then you're observing your internal process. And if you know that you've got a fault, a glitch in the system, and you can go, stop. Does it stop the emotions? No. Does it stop the negative experience and feelings? No. However, does it allow me to, A, consciously note it, work through it and not respond from that place, but respond as I wish to respond.
It's that difference, isn't it, between reacting and responding?
Yeah, massive. And like anything else, Chris, you know, we get better.
Would be my I guess that would be one of my biggest goals in life, is to really become a master of responding to things rather than knee-jerk reacting to them, because I know I've had a problem with that in the past, you know, and if I'm going to be honest, probably still do. I think that a lot of the reasons why some of us radiate towards physical training and martial arts is because it's really helped us calm our minds. Like we, you know, for whatever reason, in our past we've had difficult times that have made us quite jumpy, quite knee-jerk, reacty. I think that again, it all harks back down to the training and the martial arts to try and get to that level where we're so calm and present up here that we can just respond, or we can analyze a situation that we're about to react and go, right, this is happening, but I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this instead.
Oh, 100%, Chris. I mean, firstly, you and the rest of the human race has a problem with reacting, so don't like do yourself down on that one.
Let's just say it's a bigger problem for some of us than for others.
Yeah, okay. I've got the scars to prove that, Chris. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But when it comes to the martial art, I mean, that's what I love about martial art, is because with martial art, okay, to me, the whole thing is like, again, it kicks back into the creativity, though. It's the process of alchemy, really, because your subject materials, your raw materials are the worst shit in our existence in terms of real human physical violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you are working with. And you're then taking that crap and you are, you know, you're literally sort of turning it around, you're converting it into gold. Because firstly, it enables you to deal with that when it crosses your path. Because if you want to be able to let go of something, you need to know it inside out and backwards, and you need to be able to deal with it, you know? And that there's obviously a much broader context to that than just martial art. But let's take martial art. I mean, if I am not lost, you know, if I know what to do in a given situation. Now, there's no system that can encompass all the reality, but you build yourself a baseline. And a good system is one that's taken from personal experience, where you've identified common patterns that crop up again and again and again. You then focus on those particular patterns as your sort of foundation techniques, and you drill them, and you get a good blueprint, you get a good map, you get that good, solid, go-to program that you're running, and you have faith in that program. And the more you test it, the more faith you have, the more success you get.
I think one of the most important drills as well, if you can call it a drill, is the actual the actual, I guess it's a law, isn't it? It's, you don't use it unless you really have to. You become a master at differentiating between when it's the right thing to do to deal with something in a more peaceful way, or to use the martial arts in, you know, in the realms of self-defense or defending someone else who can't defend themselves. It's about knowing when to actually use that power, if you like, that you have.
100%. But
it's not about abusing that strength and that power that martial arts give you, not at all. And I think that it's happened too much, especially with you know, with the, sometimes, not all the time, because I have to admit I'm a huge fan of the UFC and that, but there have been times when, you know, the fighters, the egos clashing, this kind of the external warfare that goes on between fighters outside of the ring. I just think that's a load of bollocks, really. And it's actually it's a few years ago it was giving martial arts a really bad name, because that's not what it's about at all.
No, totally. There's 2 points you're covering there, Chris. The first one is learning the difference between running away and walking away, right?
Walking away,
I will always walk away given the chance, given the choice.
Or not even necessarily to walk away, being present, but then trying to diffuse the situation through other means, through human means, through talking to someone, through disarming someone, by just treating them like a fellow human being as well, because sometimes that's all it takes. I've been in situations when sometimes I think someone's about to rob me. I remember this particularly poignant one, and I just started laughing and talking to them, as in, like, don't be ridiculous, not in a patronizing way, but it's like, you seriously, you want to do that? This is like worth nothing. And they were like, oh, okay. And then they just ran away, you know. And it's just, sometimes it's just about treating a human being like another human being.
Well, now
and it's an disarming.
Yeah, now you're getting into the actual sort of specifics of self-protection and conflict management and things, which is something that I teach, which I will go into another day because it's a massive, massive topic.
Sure.
What I will say is this.
We'll save that for our next interview for sure.
100%. But what I will say is this: in order to be able to stay calm enough and think clearly enough to be able to respond and go through those different options, because you're right, sometimes doesn't matter, you know, what you say. At the end of the day, if the attacker in front of you, if their sole intention is to attack you, if you are the target, you are the prize, whatever it is, then talking is out the window. But I will always assess the situation and work out whether I can go that route. Because, you know, at the end of the day, like Bruce Lee said, you know, the art of fighting without fighting. If I can either change somebody's mind, appeal to a human side if they have one, they might not, but more at the point, you know, if that's failing, then maybe I can just simply, you know, posture aggressively and get away with it without a physical confrontation. There are so many different ways of doing it. There's all sorts of different ways of loopholing and trying to create win-win situations for people, appealing to the logic, blah, 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 blah. You can do that. But first and foremost, before any of that kicks in, if you are not confident in your ability to deal with the situation physically, right, that is straight away going to kick you into the high level of fight or flight, right? You're going to lose the plot. You are much more likely to react in a violent manner because it is your animal brain kicking in and trying to protect you. So in order to be able to do all this in the first place, I need some assurance. I need some confidence. I need to know that I am not lost in this situation, that I have some agency, some ways of dealing with what's in front of me. It's not a mystery to me. I know what's happening. I recognize what's happening. And then I can think, boom, 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 and I can respond consciously instead of reacting violently. Okay? So there's that aspect to it, to the martial arts. And then, like I say, the other aspect is, you know, once you've got that baseline established, you know, fantastic. But then, you know, it goes off in other directions. It goes off into, it becomes a community thing. It becomes a social thing. Combat sports, I love. Now, coming back to what you said about combat sports and UFC, I absolutely detest when they promote fights and they just appeal to the lowest common denominator.
And you get into those, you watch those press conferences, and they're just basically mentally baiting each other. You know, they're trying to spark up, like they're trying to tap into that fight or flight mode to actually provoke them. It's gaslighting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's promoting the wrong aspects in every shape, form. In the professional wrestling industry, they nickname that kind of thing cheap heat, which is where they hyper fight. I mean, it gets dangerous, even in the fictional world of pro wrestling, if they handle these topics insensitively, which they have done, you know, and they start stirring up aspects between, say, race, sexuality, blah, 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 and they will go there. They will, you know, and it's all about selling tickets. It's all about drama. It's all about
drama. It's all about all the things that martial arts are not about, basically.
Bottom line, yeah. I mean, you look at the greatest champions in the UFC. My favourites, you know, George St. Pierre, Randy Couture, and more. But I mean, I love those guys. They were just absolute business in the ring. Chuck Liddell, there's another one, trained with him, fantastic. They were the absolute business in the ring, but they conducted themselves really well outside of it. And, you know, don't get me wrong, right? We've all got an ego. And when we're in a competitive environment, it's perfectly okay to indulge that ego a little bit. But you got to keep...
Absolutely. And when you're there in a ring and you're fighting, there is a bit of showmanship involved, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It is it's at the end of the day, it's also entertainment. That's why people buy tickets. People tune in to their screens to actually watch a good fight, don't they? There is always going to be a little bit of showmanship involved.
Do you know what? That's
But
also
taking that into that destructive level, which it completely just pisses all over the fundamental philosophy of martial arts, which is actually to train yourself to be this, I guess, to have these sort of superhuman powers, if you like, or even, I guess, the to actually train yourself to gain the highest form of human power, to be able to protect yourself and other people. But it's to do that in a peaceful and humble way. You know, humility, I think, especially for people who are physically strong. And I think we talked about this in the last interview. The whole thing about superheroes is that true superheroes are there to defend themselves, and people that can't defend themselves, and they're very humble about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 110%.
I think modesty goes a long way.
It's about the bigger picture. So if you're promoting that stuff, that's the message you're sending out to the wider world, to the future generation of kids out there. And again, so much negative crap, and this is an enormous, topic that we can go into again in its own right. But yeah, it's having that objectivity. So it's perfectly fine, like I say. Of course, there's an element of performance. Of course, there's an element of you showing your stuff off there when you're in a ring or a cage or whatever.
Yeah,
very much so. And there's that element of connection with the people as well, which you can lose with the depression and things like that. And again, that's
cool.
That's an interesting topic in itself. But bottom line, all that aside, it's like inside the ring, inside the cage, and inside those parameters. Yeah, by all means. Let your ego run wild, do your thing, show your stuff, be the man or the woman or whatever. And then you switch it off when you get outside and you go back to being a human being.
You go back to being a human being, but you still continue to kick ass at life.
So, yeah, basically, I mean, it's just about balance. And very simply, I mean, my way of looking at two very, very simple philosophical points. One, do anything you want to do in this world as long as you're not, hurting anybody else. And the second one, when I'm weighing up, whether something is worth partaking in, if the experiential gain outweighs the physical damage, then do it.
Just basically do all the things that make you feel that you're on the edge of survival is my motto, providing you're not in danger of hurting yourself or anyone else.
Yeah.
You've only got one life. Basically push your own boundaries, do things that scare you to the point that they don't scare you anymore, they excite you.
It's that balance though. It's like there's it's not taking it to extremes where I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, so I'm going to go dancing around in front of buses. No. But it's just
but it's also taking something like case in point, I used to be quite afraid of fire, so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to learn to body burn and fire eat to get over my fear of fire.
That's amazing.
And I did it. I hate the cold, so what did I do? Several times not jumping in, obviously, because you can actually die from that, but I would go open water, cold water swimming to actually get over my dislike for the cold. Funnily enough, my winters since then have not been that cold. It's like, do stuff where it makes you feel alive, do things, get out of your comfort zone, feel a little bit uncomfortable at the time, and then you'll just feel amazing. You feel free.
It's learning to change your perception, and that again kicks back into the conversation we had about the creative process earlier and things like that. But ultimately, and I'll just wrap it up here, but I mean, basically what this reality boils down to for any of us is our perception of it. We've got our experience of it, which is our senses sending messages to the brain, that the brain then converts into its best guess of what's happening in the outside world. Now, obviously, that can vary massively depending on physical abilities or disabilities or this, that, and the other. So someone who's blind, deaf, colorblind, has no sense of smell is going to have a very different sort of experience of the world. Okay, and that's hence a very different perception of it. But the perception that we've all got, that's the bit that we associate as us. And that is influenced very much by our experiences, what we learn, the programs we're running and what have you. And you can get in and you can rewrite those programs.
Yeah, you can rewrite scripts of your life. Ultimately always going to be the same person, but you can manage and slightly modify aspects of yourself that you weren't too keen on. You know, you can stand in the mirror and go, you know what, this stuff about you needs to change a bit, and this thing here, yeah, that's getting in the way of you enjoying life, right? So this is what you have to do to make those changes and move forward.
And that's like,
it's all about living life as the best version of yourself. I think life is too short. Do all the things that make you happy. Jump out of the plane if that's what makes you happy. Thank God I did that before lockdown, and I can't wait to do that again as soon as the skydiving centres open. But yeah, do it all.
Well, that's it. Our final point. It's evolution at the end of the day. It's mankind's increasing dexterity with the energy and the opportunities around them. That's what it boils down to. And that comes from your conscious experience of the world and identifying issues, and, working to improve those. Whether you're talking sort of physically and genetically in terms of species adapting to the changing environment physically over time, which happens with physical evolution in the natural world, whether you're talking about yourself and your own sort of abilities to remold and reshape your internal programming and make it work for you.
We're creatures of survival. We can survive a lot, so go out there and live how you're meant to live.
110%, and I can't think of a better way of leaving that for now. As always, Chrys, been an absolute pleasure. We'll definitely chat again.
Thank you very much, John. It's been amazing.
Hang fire for 2 seconds, although I am going to stop the recording. So thank you very much, Chrys.
Thank you.
Take care.